Welcome to Business Prowess with Raphael and Juanita. Our show will bring you the best insights, ideas, and inspiration from successful entrepreneurs and CEOs in the business world. We'll talk to experts and business leaders. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn from the best and stay ahead of the game. Sifu Raphael is the founder of 5 Unique Shows. He's a fitness professional, solutions expert, executive coach, and head instructor at Max Martial Arts and Fitness in New York. Juanita Cap is a public speaker who was in the ministry for 15 years. She has extensive knowledge of various topics such as leadership and communication, and has emceed many executive and academic events. Juanita is the founder of 2 Unique Shows. Her life motto is never give up.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Business Prowess. My co-host today is actually at an event. I want to share something with you, and then I'm going to bring this amazing gentleman over, Joe Rockey. But let's go ahead. This is the event that Juanita is at. And then there's still availability for tickets. So here's the event. Wow, incredible event. So I want to share with you how you can get to this event hanging out with Juanita, because she is there. She's there now. Come join her. She's doing an amazing thing, has amazing speakers. But now let's get to this show. I have an amazing gentleman, Joe Rockey, who's been with me on several shows. What a powerhouse. Joe, are you ready to come on? Let's do this, buddy. What?
I absolutely am. Yeah, I believe this is the 3rd one, right?
Absolutely. I am so happy and thrilled you're here with me, buddy.
Yes, thank you for having me again. I love coming on and talk with you.
Yeah. We always have fun, don't we?
It's the point, right?
Yeah. So today we're definitely going to touch upon the business aspects of all that you do, all that I do, all that some people are working for someone, but maybe they're ready to take it on their own. Let's get started.
Yeah, so let's start off with what it is that I do. I'm Joe Rockey with Elite Business Conversations, and what we do is we help 4 fundamental groups. The first group being business owners that are feeling all of the stress and anxiety that comes from the amount of revenue they have trickling down and not being as powerful as it should be. The second group that we help is businesses that can sense and just tell something is not right with my culture. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know it's a problem and it's hurting our business overall. We help with that at Elite Business Conversations because we believe salespeople will heal the world. The third group that we help is business owners that have put their lives and soul into their business, but for whatever reason, it's not giving them either the impact, the revenue, or the time that they feel that they should be getting. We help the business owners with that. And then the fourth group, which is what you just led to for the audience here, is people that want to launch a business and make it successful and great from the beginning. They just don't know how. And at Elite Business Conversations, we help with that. And that's what we do. And like I said, our motto, our belief with everything is salespeople will heal the world. And sales are incredibly important. And every single business, whether you realize it or not, is a sales machine. It's just what are you putting out at the end? So that's what I'm here to help with, and hope we can make a difference for a lot of people's lives right now.
I definitely want to get deeper into salespeople heal the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
I love that. But can you elaborate, please?
On salespeople heal the world? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, you hear all of these big mega problems that we have out here. The country's too racist or sexist, xenophobic, whatever. The bottom line is that when you are doing sales correctly, not the model that keeps getting pushed along from the 60s, but when you are doing sales correctly, you are creating an actual connection on a human level with yourself and with your client - customer, whatever you call them. So at the end of the day, you are giving an equal transaction that goes back and forth with equalness and respect. So therefore, I'm giving something of value to you. You're giving something of value to me. That's very basic economics. Where it heals the world is recognizing that my product or service can and will help everyone. And by the nature of economics, we're not going to hold ourselves back from this group or that group or whatever. And being bridges to everything, which is what sales is. Sales is a bridge from your business to the greater world. And then when salespeople are working correctly and creating human connections, you are putting bridges over these problems that are being presented to us, and you are fixing them. Because I don't care who you are. I know I can help you and I want to help you. And I am the salesperson connecting that bridge, breaking down that barrier that existed between these two groups. And that is how salespeople heal the world. And if you, like I said, if you're doing it the way from the 60s where it's you're only getting off this call if you give me what I want and I'm going to basically torture you to death, that's how most salespeople are, and it's horrible. It's a horrible way to live, horrible way to sell. We don't teach people to do it that way. We teach people a much better way, which results in, again, salespeople healing the world.
Yeah, a better way. I like that, because if you think about sales should not be stressful, right? But a lot of salespeople, like you said, back in the 60s, and you're still using the same concepts, are full of stress. They're dynamically involved in the wrong way. Their sales pitch has not evolved. And if we think about the connections, and you talked about connecting the world, right? That to me is huge. I believe that's one of the best ways that we can definitely make a better sale, to have that connection, right? Is that something that you teach salespeople coming into your fold of your business?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we start with the mentality that our responsibility at Elite Business Conversations, regardless of who we are interacting with, in what form or what have you, the number one responsibility and goal of us is to make a difference. Meaning that the people who were involved in that experience were better off for being with us at Elite Business Conversations than if they weren't. And that is our starting point goal of every single thing that we do. So it absolutely is that. So if you're coming through and knowing that I'm going to put you through a stress ringer and knowing that I'm going to basically force you to do this, you're not going to put someone in a better place.
Not at all.
What puts you in a better place is a spot of understanding each other and realizing, we have a great product here, but we might not be a perfect fit for each other. And that's okay.
Right.
We don't need to try to force this on you, because there's many, many people who benefit from what we do. And this doesn't matter what you're selling. That's always going to be the case. There will never be a moment when everyone loves you, nor will there be a moment when everyone hates you. So the key is to be realistic. Certainly we can change the percentages greater in our favor, which is doable. But the reality is that we need to be in a spot where it's actually a human connection. And this 60s mindset that has taken off is why Amazon works. Because I would rather have no interaction with someone than a negative interaction with someone. But when you talk to people about important purchases, not necessarily expensive purchases, but important purchases in their life, they want to do it through another person. They want to have interaction. And that is why the opportunity for salespeople will always exist, and Amazon will never take over the world completely, in a great big nutshell, and why it's important. So, like I said, there are so many things that can be done to make your world a better place. And it starts with recognizing that we're people and we're trying to connect to people. Stu, you said earlier here that you got to have an updated sales pitch. I don't teach people to use sales pitches at all. Like, it doesn't happen. What we get to is at the end of every single one of our meetings with someone, even if it's an introductory meeting or it's time when they could be exchanging money for our product, we basically say, so what do you think? Because it's been a communication back and forth and relationship. Do you want to take the next step? We don't force it upon people. If you believe that we're going to be good and great, which I believe we are, but that's a little bit biased. It's my company. But, you come across and say, do you want to come down this journey with us or not? You don't have a successful marriage dragging someone on a chain and putting a gun to their head and saying, you do this. But that's essentially what most salespeople have been taught to do. That's what high pressure sales are. So why do that to someone? Why live your life that way? And the thing is that the sales life is so positive in the potential of what it can be. You don't really need any education to be a successful salesperson. You need to be able to use the innate things that every human person has that we all learn in the crib when we're 3 months old. How can I relate to someone? How can I communicate with them? And can we become friendly? That's really all you need. Now, granted, if you're selling something that's like crazy technical, like drugs or something, and you need to know who it would kill or something like that, you need to know some technical stuff. But in the process of actually doing the sales, it doesn't matter what your starting point is, and it also can take you to any level you want to get to. So the pathway of sales is the possibility of taking your life to any level you want, as long as you're able to be open and communicate with people in a real way. You can take your life anywhere you want. And that's what we really try to encourage in our process here. That, yes, there's some people that just don't want to do the work. That's life. But for those that do, you can take yourself from any depths of poverty, any unfortunate situation, and take it to where you want it to be. And, that's what we help people do. That's what we help businesses achieve. And that's part of healing the world, by the way. Stu, you're muted. You're muted.
That's because I didn't want to interrupt. So one of the things that and thank you for clarifying when I said sales pitch. For me, when I talk sales pitch, I'm not talking 1960s. I'm talking current. So for me, a sales pitch, like if you're going to train somebody to sell your product, they don't know your product, right? They don't understand your vision. So that's the sales pitch you have to give to them as a salesperson.
Yes.
What is the first? So more of instead of a sales pitch, more of a process. How do we take a customer from step A to B to C to all the way through? The most important one is to get them to buy in. So when I talk about a sales pitch, it's more like understanding objections, understanding concerns. I don't really see them as objections, because if it's not for them, it's not for them. But it's a concern. What's your concern? What's triggering you either to make a purchase or to make a bigger purchase? So we need to know that. And so when I train my salespeople, I'm definitely going through painting the picture, right? So if we're artists, we want to paint the picture. But if the person that you're painting the picture doesn't like the artwork, man, they're not going to buy, right?
Exactly.
They're not going to buy. So that's when I talk about the sales pitches, is reading your customer, reading the person you're selling to, understanding if, hey, I might be talking to the wrong person. Maybe I'm talking to the spouse, but I should be talking to the decision maker. Maybe it's the husband, maybe it's the wife. Maybe they make a decision together, and I need to talk to them together. So one of the things that I do in my sales pitch, if you will, is the question that I ask always: who needs to be here to move forward? Right. So when and I love the fact that you're talking about that connection, that understanding, because if I am talking to you and you're not the decision maker, when you go back and you explain what I explained to you to the decision maker, you're going to leave out key points. And the decision maker is going to go, yeah, that's not for us. Meanwhile, all the key points were left out, because if I talk to you for 20 minutes or if I talk to you for an hour, can you remember every word for word? Probably not, right? Can you remember the connection? Can you feel the connection if you're at a party somewhere else? So that's why it's important for me to always find out who the decision maker is and do they need to be present. If not, I'm going to put it this way: are you just kicking the tires?
Yeah, and that's a completely fair, route, obviously, because you need to know who you're talking to. So I think we do this similarly, but probably a little bit different. So the way that I teach my people to do is, regardless of whether the person in front of us is the ultimate decision maker or not, because we obviously do a lot of sales that require boards to approve us. So on our first meeting, I'm not seeing the entire board. It's very rare when that happens. I'm seeing a member of it. But you are right. In terms of the technical, dry details, those get forgotten. I mean, it's like trying to build a sandcastle without water. They just fall apart and get lost. But the part that people keep with them, and this is what we find very important, and it's how we teach people, is the feelings. Like, I don't know why, but this Joe, we just need to work with Joe. Like, and then it figures itself out. So just talk to this guy. And that's where our human connection is. And whenever we're going with someone, it's very important for any person I'm teaching this to do, is you're going to go on an emotional journey with someone. You're going to take them from a potential problem that is the company's issue and it doesn't involve me. And then you're going to bring it eventually, when you do this correctly, all the way into the person you're talking to's soul.
Right.
And that is a skill set to take from a distant, this is the company I work for, it's their problem, and bring it into their individual soul in front of you. But at the end of the day, when you successfully do that, it doesn't matter whether that's the decision maker or not, because they will put them with you at the next meeting. So I start up front, just telling people that. And I also take them through the reality. Like you're going to be in front of this board. What's the worst case scenario if you start talking about me that happens from your perspective? I know what mine is, but from your perspective. And they're going to be like, well, I can't answer the questions. I look stupid or whatever. I was like, well, wouldn't it make more sense if I was there with you? Can we arrange that to happen? And then if you've already gotten inside their soul where they don't want to look bad and they don't want to be embarrassed, if possible, yeah, I'll just be at the next board meeting and boom, I'm now where I wanted to be. Sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes they have closed doors or whatever. And then we just figure out systems. At the end of the day, I was like, so who is the number one person that's there? Can I talk to them before the meeting happens? And then, it's just a thing around. I've done a lot of board sales, and that's how I've always gotten around it. But regardless of whether we're selling to a direct decision makers there or to a board in a group, the situation still ends. I got inside their soul, and we figured out what's really going on. Like, what is the true motivation for you wanting to act? And is this important enough that we're actually going to do something about it? Because if it's in my soul and it's like I'm thinking about kicking around the back of my head, but I'm okay with kicking around the back of my head, well, it's like, well, then this isn't going to be a fit either. So we're just going to wait until it's time. Because, you tell me, I'm going to get to this in 7 months. Okay, that's cool. We'll talk in 7 months, because a lot can happen between to and fro. And you'll forget something about this, because we don't remember feelings like a photo. Like, that's not how the human body works. I felt good, but I don't remember why. And that's not necessarily a reason to move. So that's why we try to do things in a, reasonably truncated timeline, because it works better for everyone involved. And that's how we try to teach everyone to do the right thing.
Right. So one of the things that I'm also hearing is that, and I agree 1,000% with this, is that not everybody, even if they click on your website, even if they call you direct, that does not mean they're ready to buy right there and
yes, that's
done.
true.
It's not like I'm here to buy that. Now that's different, because I've had customers like that who go, I'm ready, boom, sign me up, or do this, let's do this deal. But not everybody comes in that way. A lot of people come in and they want to know what it is you offer. And then so what winds up happening, I believe, and you're saying this as well, is, thank you, Gabby, for joining us today. When we consider sales, we can't consider closing necessarily always on the first time. So sometimes it may be several presentations we have to go through. So it's that process of process 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going to close. So however many processes we have to go through, but a lot of people, like in the old days, they think that, oh no, if I don't get the sale, it's over. But maybe you're preempting them to the next step. And that's, I think, something that you were talking about too, because they may not be ready now. They may be ready in 7 months, like you said. And you also mentioned that things change. You know, maybe their urgency became, we can't wait 7 months. Now we got to do it in 3 months. But if you're not constantly in their thoughts, they may go with somebody else who's ready at that point. So one of the things that I always consider is that follow up. Hey, I understand you need to go in 7 months, but is it okay if I touch base, next month just to see how things are going, just to, keep you in the loop? Maybe we're making things a little different that will benefit you sooner. So what do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And then I put them in an automated system where because personally I'm not good at that follow up. That's why they invented automated systems. But
That's right.
I completely agree with you. And we think about this like not every person's the same. Not people don't buy. There's not one way to buy. I mean, obviously, you can go use your exact same example. Say you were trying to sell cars, and you go, you know what? I'm happy that I don't have a car payment right now. I don't really want to explore, changing that. And then all of a sudden, 3 months from now, a semi runs over their truck, and now, oh, I need a car. I'm not waiting 7 months anymore. And that kind of thing happens with all of us. So, and then to use the other side, some people want to do all kinds of research before they reach out. And, maybe they've done that. And then when they call you, they're ready to go. And sometimes the way people do research is different. Sometimes people would rather talk to someone. Sometimes they just want to get the information off the internet. Nothing wrong with any of that. But you got to recognize that as a salesperson, it by default means different outcomes are possible for every single meeting. And just because I'm not getting a check does not mean it was a failure.
Right.
That's the point you were getting to, and you're correct. There's just no way around that. I mean, trying to force everyone into buying a sale now is essentially what I'm teaching against. Now, granted, there's plenty of times we do a one-stop close. It's great. Sometimes people are there.
It's great when it happens.
Yeah. But, I'm not all about expanding the sales process. I'm about truncating it. But with that being said, it's still true that doesn't mean the outcome of this first meeting ends with me getting a check. That's just a fact of life.
So one of the things that I was also talking about, for me, it's always envisioning that sale happening the first time around. So it's the keywords. It's also listening, right? Active listening to know if they're ready. If they're not ready, then I'm going to have to push different buttons. But if they're ready, if they're giving me that sign, then I know which direction I need to go to. So that's where, if you will, it's not necessarily, I'm calling it sales pitch, but it's more like knowledge based, right? When we understand where we are, right? And that's why training, I believe, a sales force to not necessarily, because listen, a sales pitch is going to sound exactly like that, right? They're going to go answer, yes, you're going to sell, yeah, you're going to buy, yeah. So that's not going to be a positive thing for that's where the stress comes in, right? And then also for the person buying, they're like, oh man, I'm being sold. You know what? I don't need this so badly anymore. So all of a sudden you change their desire for why they contacted you in the first place to them like, I got to get out of here. This is a terrible place to be in. Let me go find somewhere else where they actually care about me, where there's a connection, right?
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and that's why you need to do a human case. This is one of the things that's hard to teach people because essentially most of us somewhere through puberty - early adulthood have had an experience where they were vulnerable and it did not work out. So we have built these own natural barriers within ourselves. I'm not going there. I'm not having this kind of conversation. I'm not thinking about that kind of stuff. That's natural. That makes you a person in modern America. Good for you. Good. You've successfully done this. But to get someone from that status of this is a superficial problem and bringing into what it actually means to themselves at their core, you as the salesperson have to be willing to be as vulnerable as they're going to be, because that's part of the way that trust is established. You know, I'm not going to come up to you and tell you all of my deepest problems and fear that if my business doesn't work out, I am going to feel like a failure. I am going to have every single relationship in my life look at me differently, and I am not going to be a good person. You don't get to that level unless you're willing to go there with them and actually be able to relate to them. And as you can tell, obviously, I've had a bunch of these conversations before. And that is the essence. There is no script to have a relationship. It's not possible. So that's where we come from. Now, granted, there are some certain points and ways of phrasing things that you can do it, but it's almost like your drive into work. Yes, you might take the same route every single day, but you are going to be able to adjust to, there's a crash half a mile ahead of me, I'm going to switch lanes. Or even when you're doing the same lane every day, you're not hitting the exact same square inches with your tires every single time. You have adjustments, you have flexibility. Even though you know where you're ultimately getting, you're able to fluctuate and adjust. And this is where people that have pre-written, memorized scripts that end up with pressure completely miss the boat and fail. I mean, it's just not good.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gabby says you guys, along with Jose Escobar, should do a webinar on how to sell tips. I agree. But hey, Gabby, you know, one of the things that we are always doing with shows like this is definitely bringing people together to impact the way we do business. Listen, Joe is very well versed on selling. You can tell that it's in his blood. He believes it. I mean, literally, the guy knows sales. And I'm going to tell you, he's in real estate. So real estate can be easy if you know how, or it could be tough. Let me share with you guys what we're doing come May 12th.
Are you ready for an unforgettable experience that will inspire and motivate you? Look no further than Heroes Rising. This virtual event will showcase some of the speakers who will grace our stage in July. Join us May 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Heroes Rising brings together a lineup of incredible speakers and thought leaders who will share their wisdom and insights on how to become the hero of your own story. With topics ranging from personal development and leadership to entrepreneurship and social impact, this event has something for everyone who wants to make a positive difference in the world. Whether you're an aspiring leader, an entrepreneur, or simply someone who wants to be inspired and motivated, Heroes Rising is the perfect opportunity to connect with like-minded individuals and learn from some of the most influential voices in the industry. Don't miss your chance to be a part of this transformative experience. Get your tickets now and join us for Heroes Rising on May 12th.
Yeah. And that right there is part of pre-sales, right? If you think about it, right? We're engaging people, like we're talking about the first time. That's an event to get people to want to come to the July event. And when we think about even that first phone call that we have with a potential client, whether they called us or it was a cold call, because what do we do in real estate? Sometimes it's cold calling, right?
Yeah.
Do you still do it?
Oh, I absolutely do. But I actually, now that I'm doing much more speaking and teaching, I still have my real estate business. I haven't turned that off at all. But it's on autopilot, which is great. I mean, one of the things I teach business owners is when I started in the beginning about we help business owners get more time, putting it on autopilot is part of it. And that's, and you know, tenants break things all the time, but it's on autopilot and I don't necessarily get engaged with it as often as I used to. What we're doing now with actively reaching out and helping businesses, yes, there's cold calling. There's cold calling to universities because, you know, there's a lot of kids out there that are doing majors that are going to be running a business, but have no idea how to do it. I mean, you think about it, your average psychology major is at a liberal arts school normally and has no concept of what running a business is at all. So yeah, I do a lot of cold calling to directors of psychology departments all over this country. Business schools as well. I mean, I talk to everyone in college. But so yeah, I mean, I do cold calls absolutely. And sometimes I'm introducing a concept to them that they have never thought of because they're so deep in the weeds of their
Right.
specialty of, all the different things that be going wrong in someone's head. They never think about, oh yeah, my kids are going to need to have a job when they come out. And one of those possibilities is they make their own. So it's that's a dawning that a lot of people have never had. Now, granted, some of them are resistant because it's not their idea, and that's unfortunately a part of management in some levels in this country. But we help. That's what we help with the business culture side.
Right.
But so yeah, long story short, I do a lot of cold calling. It's just not in the real estate world anymore.
Right. But it's a different. But you're still. It's that conversation, that initial conversation of why you're calling, right? So it's explaining to them the reason they should maybe have a second call or a third call, to explore whether it's a video, a one-on-one meeting. Now, do you facilitate when you do these calls? Is it on the phone? And then do you facilitate a video conferencing call?
That's exactly how we do it. Yeah. So the first call, 9 times out of 10, is going to actually be to the assistant because you can't get directly to the director at the university. So you're talking to their assistant, which is normal. And what so many people do wrong is they completely treat the person who's the gatekeeper as an obstacle and a problem that I need to figure out how to jump around, blow through, or tunnel under. No!
Right.
I can't tell you how wrong that is. This is your first chance to have a legitimate ally before you've even seen anyone. And to not do that appropriately is just horrendous. To try to bypass it, because the reality is, if you think this through logically, you're probably going to need that person at some point in the delivery of your product. They're going to be the one coordinating it and actually making sure it gets delivered to the right place. Or in my case, giving me the audience, making sure it's advertised correctly. That person's going to be involved. Why would I start with making an enemy or someone that I'm disregarding and not treating as an efficient person? That's just stupid. But that is how most people are taught to do cold calls. I want to talk to the rich lawyer, so I got to get through his assistant. That can both be true, but you can still make the assistant an ally. So it's now the same thing I was talking about before. Whenever it was, I'm about to sell to a group and a board, I'm only talking to one of them first. That person might not know everything I do. In fact, almost certainly they won't. But they will have the impression that I only heard his voice, but I think you should talk to him. That's a win. But because I treated her or the assistant like an actual person and respected them, respected their time and their responsibilities, I'm now moving on. When's the last time you've seen someone get pulled over by the cops and actually been nice to them? But that is actually the secret to getting a warning opposed to a ticket. Most people are just instantly yelling at them like, I didn't speed, you're wrong, you totally have no idea what you're talking about. Well, guess what? Maximum fine, have it at you.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Just go, you know what? You're probably right. I wasn't looking at speed. This is your job, and if it is what it is. What do I got to do next? And they get so thrown off because you're treating them as a person. It's like, what? I came here ready to go to war. How most assistants feel when they see a number that they don't see on their phone. Like, this guy's going to try to give me a script and just not be a person. And you're treating them a completely different blindside because you're entering with a state of humanity. That is the difference. And there are just so many people doing it wrong. And the absolute worst thing you can do, and this annoyed me when people still do this. You have a robot call for you, and then there's a 6-second delay between them picking up the phone and you actually connecting. You're wasting your time.
You are.
Because, and this happens to me actually a lot, I say hello, I don't hear anything, and then before my thumb actually hits the red button, which it's going to do now, that's happening, that's when I'll hear the person come on, try to jump in. No, you actually do the calls yourself, not having a robot do them and hope things work out. Because you're setting yourself up for failure.
Absolutely. But you know what? Here's the thing. For one of my businesses, I have a gatekeeper. You can't just call me,
Yeah.
So they know the kind of people I'm going to talk to, what I'm looking for if I am going to talk to someone. Because for some reason, some people think that you're just sitting around waiting for their phone call, which
Yeah.
is not. I know you're not. I know I'm not. But if it's important enough for me to be disrupted from what I'm doing,
Mhm.
then my gatekeeper will know to do so, or even take a message and then give it to me. If they say I'm going to take a message and they actually don't, they're just being polite,
Yeah.
right? So it's only the ones that I get handed to that I even know about. The ones that were not handed to me doesn't matter to me because they know that's their job as my gatekeeper to keep me in a place where I've set it up ahead of time,
Mhm.
so they know how important my time is. I can't talk to everybody, right? But
Yeah.
I'm only going to talk to those people who are going to be there for me to even help them in the right way.
Yeah, and as the salesperson teaching people Salesforce is, I want that. I want every gatekeeper to be like yours because if they shoot me down, that means we weren't going to be a good fit either, and you just saved me a 30-minute video conference.
That's it.
Like that's the part of this that so many people, when you're in that combative mode, and I got to get around this person, that you're missing. When you get told no, normally it should be a good thing. Like, okay, we just weren't a good fit. That's okay. For instance, part of what we do when we're helping a business owner is his transition to the next level, retirement, selling his business, whatever that means. You walk around the street, there's not too many people who are like, yeah, I want to go buy a $30 million business and I can do that right now. Like, you're going to get some no's, and that's part of it. And that's a good thing. So it ultimately just goes, okay, this category of person, I thought I had 20 people in this list. The first 5 said no. I'm just going to do a mental jump and say, probably the other 15 aren't going to work either. So now I'm going to go to this list and look at this group, target different audiences. It's how we use our knowledge base successfully.
Right.
It's common sense, but most people will never do it. They just look at this and get so crushed that it didn't go the ultimate way I wanted. So therefore it was negative for everyone involved. And the reality is no, you were just given a great teaching moment. And yeah, maybe you said something wrong and maybe you messed up. That's possible. Reflect upon yourself. But in all probability, if everything was going correctly, you guys were both normal on both sides, and it didn't work, then it was never going to work.
Right.
And the worst thing that any salesperson can have, this is like the most dangerous thing ever, and I try to phase it out, is people who think that they have a sale and never get paid for it. I'm going to get this client. I'm going to work in. They basically told me yes. And the reality is they never would have been a client. So you're much better off, instead of going down that politeness funnel, as you basically just said, I'll write down the message for you. Now I spent 3 minutes giving a message. Then you're waiting for you to call back. So then I call back this gatekeeper 3 different times, spanning across a 2-week span. So I don't look too rushed. Like, I'm not too anxious, but I'm doing my job. I'm staying connected. You add it all up. You wasted 3 hours of your life, and you've given yourself so much artificial hope that then gets incinerated. There's nothing worse than that. And most people in cold calling positions, that's their life. Right. That's what your company is having you do. And it is a horrendous way to motivate a sales force. It's a way to lose your company and destroy your own revenue. That's one of the big things we help people with. Like, we're not being right to our salespeople, and we could be, but we're not. We're just making them do the same thing over and over again. And then we wonder why revenue isn't working. The salesperson doesn't feel like making these calls where they keep getting destroyed. Like, maybe we should take a different approach. But what most people do is they just say, all right, we're not doing cold calling anymore. Well, what you've lost in the ability of doing cold calling is the way to sharpen your skills, because there's always another name in the phone book that you can just reach out to and practice with. And do you want to test your skills when you're in front of your prime quality clients or prospects? Or do you want to do it with someone that you have no idea what they are and we're trying to turn them into something?
Mhm.
So it's pretty obvious. You don't want to bring dull knives to the cooking competition. So why are you taking cold calling out, which is how you sharpen your knives? So
You know,
that was a whole big long part of that, but this is
no, I
what I
love
talk
it.
to business owners about and have them fixed. That's part of what we do at Elite Business Conversations.
Yeah, I love it. I want to share another video, and then I want to come back with a different concept for you. Take a look.
Bingo.
Heroes Rising Apex is the highly anticipated business event of the year. This gathering of industry leaders, entrepreneurs, authors, and visionaries promises to be a game-changing experience that will inspire, educate, and provide networking opportunities. Get ready to immerse yourself in a world of innovation, strategy, and collaboration as we embark on an unforgettable journey of learning, growth, and success. Join us in New York on July 14th through the 16th. Go to heroesrisingapex.com for tickets.
Another fun. There you go. So that was the May 12th is when we are going to have a bunch of speakers coming on and like a preview of what's going to happen in July. But the concept I want to talk to you about is finding a needle in a haystack sometimes. And what I mean by that is sometimes when people approach to sell me something, I don't always say no to them. I actually want to hear how they connect. And if they're really good, then I offer them a job, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so sometimes I even do that. A lot of times I have a special card that I carry with me. And usually it's in my car. So I know I'm going to, say, a restaurant or I'm going to a store. And if I encounter somebody who is exceptional as a human being, who I know would be really phenomenal at one of my businesses, then I give them this card and I say to them, have you considered a career change? Have you considered that you're so talented that you may be wasting them here? I say it in a nice way.
Yeah.
Say, hey, you know, I don't want to like be rude or anything. I'm like, wow, you're really exceptional. I would love to have a great conversation with you. And then I give them the card. And they're like, what is this? And I say, looking for opportunities, you know. So what happens is you never know where you're going to find your Michael Jordan, right? Your Babe Ruth, where they're going to really hit it out of the ballpark. So for me, it's always looking for that salesperson, that trainer, that colleague even. So it does, they don't have to be working. They could be just the owner. And I can be saying, hey, I think we can do something together. Because for me, it's finding an exceptional person that I can partner with. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they work for me, but it could be a partnership that would be, you know, a phenomenal thing. What are your thoughts on that?
So absolutely. So the starting point is that's a business culture problem that most, or solution, depending on how you want to look at it, that really comes into play. And the answer of how do you find a needle in a haystack is you use a magnet. And the magnets that you have in your business culture are who they're going to attract. So if you've built a culture that you put everyone on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of their ability to connect, and you've hired a bunch of 4s, that's all you're going to end up with.
Right.
But if you put yourself in a position where you're saying, you know what, I'm working on myself, I'm working on my humanity, I'm able to become a 9 or a 10, well, then guess what? The 4s are going to get repelled because of the opposite side of the magnet. And then you're going to start finding 8, 9s, and 10s coming after you. So the answer is you make your culture what you want it to be. And how do we get it successful? So in your world, you know what you are, and you want people that are equal and up to your high standards. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
Right.
And that's you're just given your process of how you go out and you find talent like that, which is phenomenal. Everyone should always be hiring for every position. And even if you're looking at your spot where you're climbing up the ladder and you're up pretty high, the bottom line is if you have not trained your replacement for your job, it's an extra obstacle to promote you.
Mm.
That's a fact. If you have already said, you know what, I got my protege, they can take my spot, I'm ready to take the next step up the ladder, it is much easier for everyone involved to go, do that plan. Because then there's no extra outside effort, opposed to having to get someone new from outside the company, bring them in, train them, and then hope at the end of that process, there's still a need and desire to have you go up.
Mm.
Just logistically think about that for a minute. And we just talk about how quickly anything can change in 3 months. How long does it take to train someone to do what you've done?
Right.
Probably a pretty long time if you're high up the ladder. So therefore, there's 2 facts in that. First is you're accelerating your path of going up higher. The second is that the person you're bringing on is not taking your job over immediately because they need to be trained by you. So the reason that people don't do this is insecurity. And this is where we get way below 10 and we start creeping down in the 5s. Like, I'm scared that someone's going to be better than me and therefore I'll look bad.
Mm.
Every business owner that's successful goes, I want people to be better than me. Then I look better. That makes the company better. You know, it's like, and that mindset shift is part of how you program your culture, part of how you program your magnet. Do I want to get people who are building each other up and want to look at this as a team where when one wins, we all win? Or are we trying to make gladiators where if someone wins, someone else died? And that's the way our business culture is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what you call as the business creator, as the head of your department, head of your company. That's part of what we fix at Elite Business Conversations. Fixing
That's
this,
beautiful.
making your magnet strong for the type of metal that you want to bring in. And that's how you find a needle in a haystack.
Love it. Love it. I got to tell you, Joe, always exceptional. Every time you and I talk, man, it's always like, right? It's a burst of energy, great stuff, great content. Always, always, always you over deliver, my friend. It is a great honor to have you on the show. Always.
Well,
we have to wrap it up because actually we're in over a little bit because, you know, it's exciting every time we talk.
I do that a lot.
What's one thing that you can, and I know you have different facets of your business, but what's one advice that you would give somebody who is in sales and maybe wants to level up?
Well, I would say reach out to me at elitebusinessconversations.com. That's the easiest one to do. But overall, and as you said, we try to make a difference in every single encounter. So I don't believe that over delivering is a problem because there's so much more I can't give out in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But even furthermore, to answer your question, and what I would tell someone in a training session is be comfortable being vulnerable.
Mm.
You're not going to be able to connect to someone correctly, and really even at all, if you're not willing and capable. And sometimes those are 2 different things. To be vulnerable with someone. Because the other person on the other side, if they start going down that road with you and realize you're not only do they just think you're instantly salesy, fake, and phony, but now they think they're hurt because you tricked them into becoming vulnerable and you weren't willing to do it with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that I do teach people to do and definitely share. And like I said, you can find us at Elite Business Conversations, 3 words, plural, Elite Business Conversations.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So here's Gabby. Great call and lots of golden nuggets. Gabby, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, everybody. If you're listening to this on the replay, I got to tell you, Joe is an exceptional coach, and I am so happy that you and I are connected, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Do me a favor. Have not just a great day, but an exceptional day.
That's right.
All right, you guys, everybody take it easy. Have an amazing one. We'll see you next Friday. Join me in about 15 minutes. Heroes Rising. Here we go. All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye.